Hi there, my name is Kay Moon and I'm a Twin Soul Channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video about the new moon in Scorpio occurring on November 4th, 2021 at 5:14 p.m. if you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States. For your local time, please check a time zone converter. This particular lunar update is a fun one. We have the new moon occurring here at the 12th degree of Scorpio, right kind of in the middle of the sign, because each sign is 30 degrees, but it's got some interesting aspects. We have Uranus in direct opposition at the 12th degree of Taurus, Uranus being the element of surprise, about face, revolution, change. We also have a square to Saturn inside of the element of Aquarius. In Aquarius, we have Saturn making changes to the known structure of things, making changes to the understood order of things and shaking those things up. So this is a new moon that's full of surprise, information, energy, truths, transformation, and growth, as Scorpio itself is about alchemical change. It's about the resurrection cycle, the death, the afterlife, and the rebirth. So with this kind of energy, what we can see happening is a lot of things, and I'm going to get into the multitude of ways that this can play out, but I want you to notice that this is a cardinal T-square. Sorry, not cardinal, it is a fixed T-square. So what we have with a fixed T-square is fixed structures of our life being activated to a completion point, crumbling, coming to close, breaking down in one way or another. It's going to be really important to pay attention to the areas of life that govern fixed signs. So for all of my star school students, have a look at your natal chart to understand which houses and which areas of life are related to those fixed signs. Because the solution when we have this kind of tension, 180 degree angle bisected by this 90 degree angle to both Taurus and over here to Scorpio, is we have to lean into the energy that's conspicuous in omission, and that's Leo. Leo energy is the fourth fixed sign, and Leonine energy is all about sovereignty. It's about being able to be in control of our own destiny, be fully in command of our own ability to make things happen. When we look at the root word sovereignty, or the roots of the word sovereignty, that word is all about being in control, in command, being the authority over our own lives, having the authority to say what happens and what doesn't in our lives. And so with such significant transformation and ending energy in this chart, this particular new moon is giving us the freedom of choice of what's going to come next, but it is definitively leaving the choice up to us. It's imperative that we're able to answer the question with a clear heart, what do you want? And not only be able to answer that question, but then on the other side of this new moon, be prepared to align our actions and our words and our sovereignty to move in that direction. Okay, because this new moon is portending some really significant changes and endings, you can expect some things that may play out are things like secrets getting unexpectedly revealed, things that you didn't know but maybe intuitively suspected coming to light, people who may not have had your best interests in mind in one way or another, getting exposed so that you can return to your own self-authority, your own sovereignty. Sudden endings or changings of things having to do with moms, motherhood, baby mamas, your own moms. If anyone is experiencing the passing of a mother or a change to mom's health, I'm so sorry. And my prayers are with you. This could also be for some because the moon not only represents moms, but it also represents homes. This could be a sudden need for some of you to move. And because moon represents our emotions and our needs, this can be a change or a shift, and a recognized shift in our emotional reality and our emotional circumstance or our emotional needs. For those of you who may need to do a sudden move, it behooves me to just kind of touch on it or speak to it. Roughly 60 days ago, the eviction moratorium here in the United States ended. And so we are at that 60-day mark now where there will be many in the United States who will lose their home because of failure to pay rent as a result of the pandemic right as we enter the holiday season. So if this is you with this new moon in Scorpio opening a new chapter of your life, that may include a bit of transient nature to it, an unrootedness in your sense of home, or an inability to make home in the physical form right now, an end to the structure you understood as home. It's really important to leverage this energy with this Leonine energy here to recognize that your home is always inside of you, that your home is where your heart is inside of you, and that you can make home wherever you go next. And so if this is a moment of transition for you, again, in that capacity where you've lost a home, just know that my prayers and my thoughts are with you. And, I'll continue to be here on YouTube for free, providing whatever guidance I can at each lunation. But it's a great time to really double down and focus in on what is this transition asking me to focus on in terms of my next chapter: work, money, stability, sovereignty. In order for me to get to a place of sovereignty in the material form, what is it that I have to be willing to do that up until now I may not have been able to do, or potentially unwilling to do? What do I need to be willing to do to get to sovereignty that I may not have been willing to do prior to now? Okay, there's a lot of pressure here from Aquarius and Saturn speaking about wholeness and integrity, Uranus and Taurus speaking about transformation and change to that which we wanted to hold on to, and new moon in Scorpio speaking to the ending of things. There's a lot of pressure here on our family systems and our emotional attachments, especially when those attachments have been based on fear or manipulation. There can be a lot of relationship turmoil that's been brewing for some time, with this new moon in Scorpio coming to a head to really force our hand in authoring a new chapter in our most significant relationships. So if this is something that you're experiencing, just know that the change has been a long time coming, and you probably are aware of this. Not only has it been a long time coming, it also is a necessity to recognize that it is for your good. It is ultimately to help you come back home to your sovereignty, come back home to yourself. And so if there is something that seems to be coming out of nowhere, take a look back. Take a look back in the last, 90 days over the summer as it edged into the fall. Maybe even have a re-listen to the lunation videos from the summer and the fall to really track what you saw unfolding in your world, because there would have been signs and signals of this particular change forthcoming prior to now, whatever the change is in your world. So again, there's a letting go theme here, and a new beginning without something that once was. The solution here is also not only sovereignty, but Leo being that fifth sign from the sun, fives representing change. Leo also represents creativity. It represents children and new birth in certain ways. It can represent our creative potential and creative capacity. So this particular new moon in Scorpio is asking us to lean in to our source instilled creatorship abilities, to start working on manifesting that which we know we are capable of having and creating. Okay. There's a lot of transformation energy and an evolution toward our integrity and wholeness, especially because the fulcrum point of this T square here is Saturn. Saturn, if you look at the mythology of it, yes, Saturn created separation energy with Uranus, but what Saturn gave back to Gaia, the feminine in that story, is actually an opportunity to be whole and be who she is and operate in the fullness of her power. And so if you can take this as an opportunity to step into operating in the fullness of your femininity, your feminine creativity, your feminine power, no matter what kind of physical body you incarnated into, we all have feminine energy within us. This new moon in Scorpio gives us an opportunity to let that internal feminine power shine, unleash it, and bring it forward. Bring it into wholeness and integrity. Where she has been quiet, let her speak. Where she has been repressed, let her act. Okay. So those are some of the initial energies. There's also a lot more talking to this full moon or this new moon, bringing some other energies to it. So I'm going to speak to that in a minute, but I just wanted to say, if you're already hearing something that resonates for you in your own lived experience, feel free to hit that like button. And if you've already hit it, I know a lot of you just open the video and hit like, which I thank you so much for. It helps the content circulate. If you're new here, or you've listened a few times but find yourself keep coming back and you're hearing some things that resonate for you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel so that you're notified. It's in your feed when new information becomes available each new and full moon. Okay, so we have this new moon. I'll highlight it again here in Scorpio, having a conversation, a trine with some asteroids over here in Pisces. We have Pallas, which is known as kind of a protectress and a goddess of war, or you could say motivation, feminine ambition. We also have Nessus here, which is where we can tend to be a little bit OCD. It's the energy of being highly obsessive, thinking, overthinking, and then rethinking the overthinking, speaking to this new moon. And so this energy in water, because Pisces and Scorpio are water signs, is bringing an energy of alchemical dissolution. We'll get to that. That's actually more the Uranian aspect here, but this is bringing an energy of kind of emotional entrenchment and caught upness in whatever the changes are, and a deepening understanding of the spiritual meaning of the changes at this time, a real recognition that spiritually we're coming into a very new place. And because of that, it's necessary to understand what's happening from a new perspective, to not just process it with the same old victim story, because there's definitely a lot of victim story energy to this new moon in Scorpio, and none of us are victims. We may have some really uncomfortable circumstances that we are being challenged to rise through, but victims, we are not. And so this particular new moon is inviting us to step into a deepened understanding of the spiritual truths and spiritual wisdom of the changes taking place at this time, because they are big. Okay. This energy, because of the way Uranus is again speaking to this new moon, there can be, like I was saying, an alchemical dissolution, like something literally can kind of change overnight, disappear overnight, or a solution can be found overnight, something resolved overnight. It can seem like it comes out of nowhere, some of the changes. There are a lot of completions and endings here. As I mentioned, because Scorpio is all about the completion and the ending that begins a resurrection cycle. Further, there is a bit of energy here around completion of a cycle on the whole, because Pisces is the very last sign of the zodiac wheel, and with Nessus and Pallas here speaking so directly to this new moon, something's definitely over, done for a lot of people at this lunation. And so if that's the case for you, try to ride the waves of completion and ending with as much grace and surrender as possible. I know this is not going to be an easy time for a lot of people. However, there's also freedom in being and releasing things that just were meant to be a part of the last chapter in our life. We are set free to begin to look toward what's next and what's coming. This is a really great energy to work on the end of addictive behaviors, addictive relationships, and substances, etc. This comes in particular because, let me move some of this stuff out of the way. There we go. So we still have our new moon here because of the relationship between Chiron and the Ceres Lilith energy. These two are sextile to one another, which is harmonious, but they are both in conjunct to the moon, forming a yod. And so yods aren't necessarily always talked about. I don't always bring them up unless they include one of the major planetary aspects, and a new moon would be a major one. But with Chiron and Aries bringing up for us, all of our wounds so that we can see them, the things we need to heal, really highlighting all of our stories of not enoughness. And then this Ceres Lilith combination down here in Gemini, really highlighting and bringing forward this kind of sense of, doggedly sticking to kind of routines that aren't working anymore, habits and behaviors and thought patterns, in particular, communication cycles with people that seem to go nowhere, that just end up in the same spot. This kind of energy, this Scorpio new moon is calling us to put an end to it. And it's doing it by making it really uncomfortable to stay in those patterns at this juncture. There's a real kind of ability to heal ourselves, and a full recognition of the wounding, and an ability to persevere in the midst of a lot of uncertainty, because that sign of Gemini can cultivate and be a harbinger of a lot of uncertainty. Gemini doesn't really deal in definitives. It deals in maybe this and maybe that. So as a result, there can be, unfortunately, with Chiron speaking with Ceres and Lilith in this way, there can be a little bit of self-pity and spinning around in our wounding, but the yod pulls that attention through an in conjunction, which is normally inharmonious, But because the inconjunct forms this whole angle with the yod, it pulls that attention off of that spinning and that looping and into a scorpionic resurrection cycle, which I will just say again, always starts with an ending, always starts with a death. So there's going to be some recognition in all of us at this lunation where we have been holding ourselves back in relationship to other people, in our own thinking and our consciousness and our communication with our words, in the way that we've been doing our lives. So expect some of those insights to hit you while you're driving, doing dishes, in the shower, wherever you find yourself in that meditative state. Expect some aha moments about your own participation in previous patterns of your wounding. Expect some revelation about how you can get out of it at this time, how you can get off it at this time and move into something new and something very different. Okay. All right. So we talked about all of that. Yeah, change is here either way. Even if we're trying to cling to our victim mentality with the series Lilith and Gemini speaking to Chiron, the previous unwillingness to change is now, it doesn't matter whether we wanted to change or not. It's kind of like, this is a little bit of getting our hand forced by circumstances, is the best way I can put it. Okay. It makes it a bit inevitable. It's inevitable that at this time, some of our fears are going to come to the surface for us to see them for what they are and give us a chance to decide, is fear going to run my show or am I? Choose. Choose. There's no way in this new moon energy to be unconscious anymore, to pretend like, oh, I'm just going along with it. No. Lights on, everyone's home. Choose. And this is something that we're all needing to look at this time. So the question that we're really wrestling with is, who am I when I can see the truth about me? And the truth about me can maybe be a little uncomfortable, can make me feel not so great, can make me feel a little bit down on myself. Who do I choose to be in the face of that? Do I wallow in it? Am I a self-pity person? And am I a hide from everyone and everything person? Am I a get help person? Am I a change the routine person? And am I a create chaos person so that nobody can really see the mess behind the curtain? This new moon is going to dredge up kind of a lot of our shadow energies for us to see. And so we have to ask ourselves, who are we when we can see the truths about ourselves? I've been having a lot of conversations with clients lately, who've, wanted to ask about, this thing with twin or this thing with soulmate or this thing, with work, only for all things to point back to the exact same pattern in their chart that's holding them back from everything, success in every area of life. And it's, for a lot of them, it's been an uncomfortable eye opener. I'll say I've had plenty of my own over the years, and especially now with this energy. But the question becomes, are we going to change? How can we change? And are we sick enough of the stink of our own shite? Are you done smelling it? Like, have you got a nose full already? Because you can move forward, but it is going to require that leonine sovereignty, that creativity, that ownership of being at the helm of our ship in life. Okay. So there it is. Ultimately, this is a conversation, this new moon in Scorpio, about self-love. And I'll be honest, I never understood in my, younger years that phraseology, you can't love anyone until you love yourself. It didn't make any sense to me until I met and fell in love with my counterpart. Conceptually, could I feel love for somebody else? Yes, I always could. That was never the debate. The issue was whether or not I could show up and behave like a loving person, whether or not that love could extend beyond my heart and into confronting my fears and all of my attachments and smoting my own dragons and confronting my own boogeymen so that I could be an expression of that love. It was only through the experience of learning, what twin love is like, what divine counterpart love is like, that I came to really understand, oh, wow, yeah, until I have been willing to do those things for me, be with my own fears, there was no way for me to lovingly be with somebody else's fears. I had no mechanism to be with fear that I built already. My mechanism for dealing with fear was running away, it was blame. My mechanism for dealing with fear was shutting down. And of course, if that was the way I dealt with my own fears, that's the only tool I had available to deal with my counterparts' fears. And their fears came up when I couldn't even recognize them doing fearful things. I couldn't even see it until I started to learn how to sit with my own fears. And upon doing that, I grew the capacity to have patience and bear witness when I watched my counterpart start to wrestle with and dance with their fears. But it was an act of self-love that built the tools to be able to provide it for them. And so I say this at this juncture in this video specifically because what we're growing is an opportunity for us to not just become better people for ourselves through this self-love, but better people for our children, better people for our coworkers and our siblings, better people for our counterparts in life and our friends. So take that for what you will, but just that phrase comes to mind, can't love another until you fully loved yourself. It's just the tools aren't there to be able to do so. The feelings can be, but to behave in a loving way to another, we have to first have built the toolkit within ourselves for ourselves. Okay, so if you're already hearing some stuff that resonates for you and you'd like me to look at your chart before we close the year, the December calendar is open. It is limited because of the holidays. I would love to be able to read for you, but there are limited available sessions before we close out 2021. So my recommendation would be to book now over at kmoonastro.com because once they're filled, they're filled. And then we'll be booking into 2022. Okay, let's talk about some of the other aspects here. This Chiron, oops, that's not what I meant to do. Chiron sextile Saturn. So here is Saturn, here is Chiron. They are speaking in harmony to one another through a sextile. I would like to say that this forces us to heal, but it really doesn't. This energy is giving us an opportunity to heal, but we would need to be willing to reach for our own healing with it. We would need to be willing to reach for our own integrity. It's the willingness to be able to turn on the lights when we are afraid, to see for ourselves that there's no boogeyman rather than awaiting rescue. We have Mercury over here in Libra with the creation goddess and with Mars making a tight little lineup there. And all three of them are in trine to Jupiter over here in Aquarius. Aquarius is about collective energies. Libra is about relationship energies. And so, with this particular energy, the other piece is Pluto speaking to Mercury. Mercury is playing a really critical role during this particular lunation. Now, normally Mercury doesn't get imbued with this much power all at one time. Mars, creation goddess, Pluto, and Jupiter. But this is like a huge amount of power flowing in, or that Mercury is like kind of reaching out and grabbing and binding to itself as it makes these final degree changes through Libra, bringing relationship problems, challenges to a close, bringing them to a head. This is an energy because Pluto governs Scorpio, and it is that resurrection cycle, governs that resurrection cycle, death, afterlife, rebirth. Jupiter is about the expansion process, creation goddess, all about manifestation, and Mars, all about motivation. With all of this sitting inside of this lunation, starting off a new cycle, a new moon, talking to Mercury specifically, because Mercury is mind, Mercury is communication, it is thought form. Under this energy, our thoughts become things very rapidly, very, very rapidly. So it's important to take time to be mindful and careful with our thoughts, careful with our words as we're speaking to other people. It's a good time to speak, write, and think healing and harmony into our relationships and into the collective and the world at large. Those of you who know how to do collective energetic healings, any kind of powerful prayer circle kind of things. It's a beautiful time to enact that and to gather in group to express certain thoughts. Thoughts have a massive power to shift reality at this particular time. There's going to be, as I said, amplified power in prayer, in visualization, in scripting or writing for collective healing. And those things are going to go a long way at this time. And so too will gratitude practices. If you happen to be the kind of person who has claircognition about things, or you're a channel, you're going to, and your abilities come through either air or water elements in your chart, you're going to find that this particular new moon, your gifts are amplified at this time. Okay. So be very mindful of your use of words. Always use words wisely. To create your own sovereignty and your own freedom, and to align with best possible outcomes rather than try to bind other people or bend them to your will, because this particular new moon with Uranus opposite this new moon, that kind of energy just won't really work, especially with Uranus speaking to Saturn. You're going to find that kind of thing, especially as Jupiter gets into Pisces next year and then starts speaking to Uranus, you're going to find that kind of stuff backfires in a multiplied kind of way, trying to bind other people or override their free will. But to the degree that you're able to just leave things a bit more open-ended, harmonize to the highest possible outcome, that's an aspect of love, an aspect of divine wisdom and truth that will allow the best things to come forward for everyone involved. Okay. We have Venus conjunct Juno in Sagittarius, a super important energy because they are both aspects of ruling energy for the sign of Libra, which is where this creation goddess Mercury sit, and they too are speaking in harmony with her. So because the sign of the truth here, Sagittarius is showing up, or where both of our partnership and love energies sit, this is going to bring forward an opportunity for us to speak a lot of love and harmony into our relationships, speak a lot of truth into our relationships and have our relationships move to a much higher place as a result of that. You know, it was funny. I was having a conversation with someone whom I love dearly just yesterday, and I hadn't even looked at this information yet. But, you know, I gave them some news that there was something they invited me to that I wasn't going to be able to go at this time because it wasn't aligned for me for various reasons, not having to do with them, but just, you know, where my life is at. And, you know, after I delivered the news and we hung up the phone, they called me back and said, you know, you would tell me if something was wrong, right? And I said, actually, no, I wouldn't. You've actually set up in our relationship dynamic a repeated pattern of telling me you don't want to know certain things. You have said that specific phrase multiple times to me. So the pattern and dynamic we have in this relationship is that no, I wouldn't tell you. So you can't really have it both ways. I said, you need to decide. Do you either want an honest relationship with me or do you want a comfortable relationship with me? But you can't have it both ways. And they said, wow, okay, I'm going to go think about that. But that was the truth. Like, I'm more than happy and willing to be direct, which is how we ended up in the circumstance where this person would tell me, no, I don't want to know. Don't tell me, you know, leave those details out. And if that's the case, well, then you're going to have a partial relationship. So, you know, it's this kind of energy with both Venus and Juno sitting in the sign of truth. And then Mercury here and creation goddess under the light of this new moon in Scorpio that's bringing real transformation to a lot of our relationships in our communication and an opportunity to transform the way we are talking to people, speaking to ourselves about our relationships and relationship possibilities. If you're the kind of person who's kind of wandering around with a script in their head, you know, I'm rubbish at relationships. I can never get them right. I fail at them all the time. You know, I can never commit. I'll be single forever. People always abandon me. People always abuse me. People always take advantage of me. Cancel, 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 cancel. This is the time where you're going to find that those belief systems come to the surface for your complete recognition so that you can change, so that you don't have to live under the limitation of your own words anymore. Okay, so beautiful gifting here for us to set ourselves free from our own relationship jails at this time. And it could be with anyone, it doesn't have to be with a romantic other, it could be friends, colleagues, parents, children, exes, neighbors, spouses, whatever. This is an opportunity for you to break out of your own self-created relationship jail. So give yourself that opportunity where it is aligned with this new moon. Okay. And then because of this, Juno, Venus, and Jupiter is both Juno, Venus speaking in harmony to Jupiter. As of the last full moon and the new moon prior to it, I think it was the new moon in Libra, new moon in Libra, full moon in Aries, new moon in Scorpio here, there has been potent relationship coming together, energy in the air, union kind of energies that are bringing relationships closer, creating more harmony, more understanding, deeper depth going on with this. It is going to take work. The sextiling energy doesn't just bestow energy like Santa Claus. You actually have to do your part of reaching out, communicating, being vulnerable, being transparent, having difficult conversations, or having any conversation at all. with the sextiling energy to get benefit from it. But that union energy is certainly here and in the air, especially now with Mercury direct, creation goddess speaking to Mercury, and Mercury speaking both to Venus and to Jupiter in the relationship sense, and to Juno in the relationship sense. There's huge opportunity for massive breakthroughs in the third dimensional world of relationship at this time. Okay. With Pluto squaring this Mercury Mars creation goddess configuration, this right here is giving us a lot of deep thinking about our relationships and the structure, that's Capricorn here, of our relationships, and what our relationships are doing and bringing to the structure of our lives. Are our relationships supportive to and conducive to the structure of our lives? Are we engaging in relationships that perpetually undermine the structure we need in our lives, the groundedness we need in our lives? This Plutonian influence is bringing a lot of deep thought and clarity around what needs to shift so that our relationships can have more appropriate structure and help us go where we want to next. So, like I said, the December calendar is open. If you would like to book a reading, kmoonastro.com is the best way to do that. But I understand if you're not ready, or just isn't the time, you've got other things you need to do financially. If you'd like to just stay in touch and get these lunar updates on the new and full moon, just hit that subscribe button. If you're new here, I'd love to see you at the next full moon coming up here in another couple of weeks. Thanks so much for all of your likes, subscribes, and shares. Take great care, and bye for now.